Welcome to the Nick and Matt Show. Bringing the player interviews you want to hear and the hot topics you want to discuss. Streaming live on the Foundation Podcast YouTube channel, here's Nick and Matt.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? You have made it to week 46 of the Nick and Matt Show, now on the Foundation Podcast Network. If you go check it out on YouTube, that's where you'll find us. Hit that subscribe button. We would greatly appreciate it. Matt, I'm excited to be back in the studio down here in Virginia. I know last week I had off. Last week people were thinking that I shaved my head, I got a better jawline, and I ended up being related to you. But that's not the case. Your brother actually helped me out, filled in for me, and I'm super appreciative of that.
Yeah, real quick, Nick. This is on the fly. Do you mind pulling your microphone up just a tad if you can? Just for audio thing, it'll sound better. Listen cool. To your radio voice.
That sounds good.
That's better. Okay. Yeah, true. That was my brother. My brother got rave reviews, in we should be afraid for our jobs. No, I'm kidding. This is the Nick and Matt Show.
I was like, look, am I getting kicked off the show? I mean,
no.
If it happens.
It's the Nick and Matt Show, and it wouldn't be a show without us, and he wouldn't have had an opportunity to come on the show without us. That's right. No, we were very grateful that he's like, yeah, I'll drive in and I'll be in studio. And the reason it worked out also so well is because he does another show, disc golf show. So with me on the Disc Golf Network.
So luckily he's not afraid to be behind the webcam, as you would say.
No.
But anyways, Matt, we're 46 weeks into our show. We started out end of March, early April of last year, and kind of got the show up and running. We've almost hit that 1 year mark of how many weeks we've done of it, which is pretty insane. But some newer people in the disc golf world, we've obviously seen the explosion of disc golf throughout the whole country and the whole world in and of itself. So some people might not know how you and I even got into the sport and got into the positions of where we're at. So I'll let you go first if you want to just kind of introduce yourself again.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Like you said, we're full year 50 or what are we, 46 episodes in. And
46,
so let me do it this way. Not to give you every detail, but I grew up playing Frisbee. My mom introduced me to the flying disc, if you will. Thank you, Mom, for that. And then from that point, I didn't know anything about disc golf until I was probably 21 or 22. My then brother-in-law at the time, it said, hey, do you want to see a disc do cool things? Hyzer flips and all. I didn't know the terminology, but S curves and flip over and all these things. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I would. And so he introduced me to it, and I thought it was magic watching a hyzer flip or a flex shot or anything. And I wanted to learn it from that moment on. I'm very competitive. And so I just continued to play. Fast forward from there, another 9 years or so after I was introduced. And I was like, I had kids, I had a wife, and I was like, let me introduce my kids to it. One thing led to another. I started the organization Kids Disc Golf. Actually, I'm wearing the hat tonight. And that kind of blew up pretty good. We actually hosted the U.S. Juniors Disc Golf Championship multiple times, and that was fantastic. And we were slated to run Junior World. So I stuck my foot in the door a little bit there. And let me kind of transition it back to you a little bit. I actually worked as a youth pastor for a while at a church. And Nick was one of the students in that youth ministry, and I would take out a disc and throw it in the parking lot at this church.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Nick, let's see how far you can throw. And so let me kind of pass it over to Nick now to kind of introduce his introduction to the sport.
I was going to say that was probably just about 9 years ago. I think 2012, 2013 is when I got into disc golf and, really started, I would say, playing. I actually won my first amateur 2 tournament. May of 2013 was the first year I won it at my home course at Pyramids. So Matt is actually the one who introduced me to the sport. And then his then brother-in-law, Jeremy Binley, was another great mentor of mine. They both kind of kickstarted me into coming to Monday night leagues and then doing doubles and everything like that, and then starting to play tournaments. So originally that's how I got into it. And then obviously I introduced some other friends into it. Matt and I were one of the reasons why, Hannah used to be then Hannah Croak. She got into the sport. And so her and I have been friends even before disc golf, anything like that. And then
Nick,
got
real quick,
to it.
Interjecting. Yeah. Remember on social media, it comes around once a year. Hannah posted a social post on Facebook to my Facebook profile saying, "Matt, teach to me Frisbee golf."
Yes.
So
that came up just recently again, I think. Yeah.
It's around that time. So you continued to introduce her to the sport.
Yep.
And then
exactly. So then we would start going out playing, and then we both kind of got heavily involved in actually watching the professional side of it. It took a little while for me to even really know that there was a pro side to it, besides for local pros. And so then I got to know some of the great pros, like Nate Doss will always be one of my favorite players. And then Paul Macbeth was one of my favorite players because of how good he is. And then just other players who I actually got to casually meet. Like I met Greg Barsby at our weekend league, Dana Vicic, a couple of other touring pros. Super fun to meet them. And then obviously years later, Hannah and Paul actually met, started dating, got married. That's when I got to know Paul a lot. And then so Paul and I have obviously become very good friends. He's been kind enough to let me live with him before, live with him now while they're out on the road. And so, yeah, that's pretty much my story into disc golf. And because of that, that got me involved with, the foundation guys and doing a couple videos with them here and there. And now doing the Foundation Podcast Network and everything like that. So it's been a super fun journey. Fortunately, this year I've been really dedicating actually most of my time to disc golf, which has been super fun. Tournaments have been going pretty well. I have, I'll usually have a pretty good tournament and then an okay tournament. So it's been a fun year, but I'm actually just trying to dive in full to the content of disc golf and being a disc golf player.
So you just brought up something interesting, like how good are we? I'm gonna give ratings because it's the only way to compare. I'm 953 rated right now, and you're like 990.
995.
Okay. Well, there you go, a little bump. I don't want to leave those 5 points. Yeah. So, like Nick, on average,
I'm 5 away from that 1,000 rated mark, which I want.
I've gotten a little bit better since Nick's moved away. I'm not sure why, but now that means Nick and I would, on average, he'd probably shoot about 4 or 5 strokes better than me on average. Sometimes that's 10 strokes better. So
depending on the course.
Yeah, it depends on the course. So yeah, and then the funny thing is, Nick, we say, here, I picked up a Frisbee when I was a kid. One thing leads to another. I'm at Paul and Hannah's, wedding reception. So it's just the way the small world is. That's Nick and I's connection there. I've competed at Am Worlds once back in 2011. That was a great experience. And Nick competes at Pro Worlds how many times?
I've competed at one Pro World so far at Smuggler's Notch in Vermont, and then I'm actually competing at this Pro Worlds. I was lucky enough, I don't know how the invites work, but I was lucky enough to actually get an invite so I could sign up at a certain date. I was able to make it in, and I'm flying out in just a few weeks. I'm actually really, really excited for it.
Awesome. So that was our introduction, guys. For those of you who knew who we were, you're like, get on with it. You fast forward. You hit the.
I was going to say, just skip the first 10 minutes.
The 30-second fast forward trick, on iTunes. Okay, so here's the Masters Cup recap. We're going to talk about the stats from the event, but this has been a long happening. I don't know the right way to say that. A long reoccurring event at the famous De La Vega disc golf course. What's funny is, not everybody's sure about how it's played out in the previous years, but they had a golf course and De La in previous years, and they would do one round at each course. This time, this iteration, all 3 rounds happened at the disc golf course. We are going to talk. We're actually going to have a full conversation about this course, but let's not do that right now. Let's talk about how it played out. 24 holes, par 75, and then MPO field of 76. Nick, when we talk stats for this, Statmando, again, everybody, if you haven't checked.
Yeah, our good friends over at Statmando. Yeah.
And I can tell you they're working on something significant. I say this every week, but I'm telling you, they actually, and I don't think I shared this with you, Nick, they've given me the opportunity to have a little bit of insight before it's officially launched out to everybody, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah. But I got a DM about the website. So
okay, good.
I'm excited to dive into it.
So let's talk about how this played out. Do you want to just give us kind of the scenario to the ending? Like, what do we see? Top 3 or top 4? Who are the relevant players coming into the final 9, if you will?
Well, I'll first say warning, 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 spoiler alert. We're going to talk about the winners, obviously, right now. And that is a very good friend of mine, super awesome dude, Adam Hammis. taking down his first national tour win over at Masters Cup. Super excited for him. He finished 33 under par, total score of 192. We talk about ratings because, it's a thing in the disc golf world right now. You can argue with them or against them, but this is a stat that we do have. He shot the highest round rating, 1076 in round 1. His event average was 1054, which is 17 points above his player rating. And then historically, his highest event rating at this one was 1010.
So
was his event rating.
Let's talk about that real quick. I think, and this will be up for debate for a while until, enough people say it's a stupid stat, which I'm fully open to that opinion. But until that happens, it's almost like I would say the eye test. I see a high rating and you don't count that as the end all be all, but you look at it and you go, okay, dang, why did he perform higher than his average? What is that? And for Adam Hammes, this is kind of blows me away a little bit. He had just about the same amount of circle 2 putts as everybody else, but he made 10 of those.
Yeah.
So
he had a few more. I think, what was he, 10 for 30 from circle 2?
Yeah.
Wild.
So that's higher than anybody. Nobody else did that.
Yeah.
Circle 1 putting, highest putt. Obviously, that's his strength. So this is why he did well. Very high fairway hits. And then he was first place in gained putting strokes against the field. First place. So putting was the reason why he performed higher than his average at events. That is excellent. Congratulations, Adam. Number 2, second place. We're going to have him on later, Nick. James Proctor. I don't know how much you know about him, but he took first in the stat gained on tee to green. So he was getting to the green better than everybody. First place. He gained 13 strokes on the field.
He's got a pretty powerful backhand. I've seen coverage of him here and there just throughout the years. He was on OTB coverage, I think, with Paul Macbeth one of the rounds. If you want to check it out, but he's got a good backhand, good forehand, I'm pretty sure, and he's, from what it seems, he's a decent putter. I mean, 85% for circle 1X. He hit 7 for 27 from circle 2, so he's obviously a good putter. Just Adam just etched him out a little bit in the full-on putting stats. So
yeah, in fact, if you want to do comparison, it looks like he compared in circle 2 putting to like Ricky, Calvin. Ricky, Kyle Klein had pretty good circle 2 putting this weekend, as well as Paul Macbeth, 7 for 23. But man, can we just move down a little bit? So by the way, Paul Macbeth, everybody, made a push in the final round. He was just hanging out, top 10, made a push in the final round to secure 4th place. As I said a few weeks ago, nothing to see here. Paul's fine.
Just a shout out to Kevin Jones really quick, getting that top 3, getting that last podium finish. Kevin's had kind of an up and down year so far, so it's good to see him kind of back on that leaderboard where we are used to seeing him in the years past. I think this is a good thing in the right direction. I think that's a good confidence boost going to the next few tournaments, but ultimately going to the first major of the year for the men coming up soon in June.
Yeah, and so we are the Nick and Matt show, and we're going to talk about the bad stats too. A little bit mind-blowing. Nick, how many did we say? How many participants at this event? It said 76.
76.
Okay, so
for the FPO side of it.
If you
I think 37 for the FPO.
If you get 62nd in putting or 70th place in putting, according to the field, okay, this is according to the field how you're placing. That's not going to be good for you. And I'm talking about Calvin Heimberg, his worst finish to date this season, tying for 33rd place. And Garrett Gurthie tying for 55th. And he was 70th on the gained on putting strokes and 38th from tee to green. He was just not performing well. Do you think there was any jitters coming back as a returning champ, if you will?
I mean, I don't really think I don't think it's jitters as much. I mean, with Garrett, we've always talked about it in years past. And he even said it when he was on our show not too long ago. He is not the best putter. He'll admit it. That's somewhere where he does struggle the most is his putting. Usually he's very good tee to green, but looking at this tournament, he was on the lower side of it. But that's also, Garrett's known as one of the biggest power throwers in the game. The De La Vega course, it's a very wooded course with a lot of elevation. So one bad tee shot, if you hit the tree up just a little bit too high and that disc kicks to the right or left down the hill, it's going for a ride.
And when he
and
won,
that's where the bogeys, that's where the big numbers come about.
yeah, and when he won, it was with the golf course in play, if I'm not
It was,
mistaken.
yep.
So
Yep,
it's
it
a
was.
different, I don't want to say it's a different tournament, but it's a different tournament. He made 0 of 26 putts from circle 2. 0.
Mhm.
Thank you, Stat Mando, for these stats. It makes it easy for us. You guys are great at what you do over there.
Yeah.
Go check out Stat Mando on Twitter. Let's jump into FPO. Nick, I've said it on my other show. I'll say it on this show. I'll say it everywhere.
Yeah.
Paige Pierce is back. When she came back and won OTB Open, I was just like, yeah, it's what we're going to see again the rest of the year. How do you feel about that?
I completely agree with it. I mean, we were just waiting for Paige to kind of like get back on that train that she was on of just heading in the right direction of that 1,000 rated mark. And it seems like we're finally seeing that vintage Paige form. I mean, look at what she did at US Women's. She was dominant, 100% circle 1 putting for the 3 rounds that happened at that event. And then coming out to this one and just being able to kind of not coast through the victory, but for the most part, I mean, she did win the tournament by 5 strokes. So there obviously wasn't too much pressure coming down the line for her.
Yeah. So Paige's dominance in this, I say dominance, like it was like a blow. It was a good win, but it was 22. Yeah. She gained 22 strokes. She took first place on tee to green stat. So she's getting off the tee pad and to a putt better than anybody at this event. I will say though, what's interesting, circle 1 in regulation is really low, 24%, but maybe that's just the way De La plays. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I guess you could say that's probably the way that De La plays. I mean, it's got the little green stat next to it, so it's not the best, but it's definitely above average for that 24%.
Yeah.
Just watching the coverage throughout the course, I mean, the holes aren't necessarily super long. They're just very, very tight. And the elevation differences, like I was just talking about, are pretty insane. And so reaching the basket, circle 1 in regulation. She had good circle 2 in regulation, though. I mean, that definitely helped out. Putting stats all across the board weren't amazing for the FPO side of the field. Alexis Manuhondo, though, shooting 88% from circle 1 putting. So that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and something worth noting, Nick, no FPO player shot under par in the final round. That is worth noting. Juliana Korver. I think it's pretty cool to see her story coming back to the scene. However,
100% agreed.
In this tournament, her putting was her biggest issue. She lost strokes on the average, shooting 32nd place according to gained putting strokes. 32nd, that is really, that's going to be her issue. But she still tied for third. If, and I always do this, I did this for Kona too, I think last week when Josh was on the show. If you could only just find a way to putt average to the field, you're going to move up everybody. Like she would have been in just about second place. Juliana Korver.
No, yeah, I actually love seeing Juliana come back into the game and actually, putting back in the work and everything like that and competing at a very high level. She's obviously done very well the last few events. She just won the U.S. Women's Disc Golf Championships in the FP40 division, which punched a ticket to the Throw Pink Disc Golf Championships for the women. And so that's pretty exciting. She is an FP. She's a master's level player coming back. She's a 5-time world champion, one of the, best female players to ever play the game. So it's cool to see her come back and beat up on the young guns. So I like it.
Yeah, for sure. And so, I mean, that is some of what I found interesting here. Again, Juliana playing above her average, which is good. But here's some notables that are worth pointing out. They are that Adam Hammes, this is his first Elite Series win. I think we might have mentioned that. But his best finish before this was second place at the 2019 Hall of Fame Classic. Awesome.
In a playoff versus Calvin. Very, very fun playoff to watch, too.
And do you remember everyone was talking about Hammes' putting and how did he win at De La? Putting. Obviously, you have to do more than that, but that was like his big takeaway. Speaking of James Proctor, who we'll have on in just a moment, this was his highest Elite Series finish. His best prior to this was fourth place at Beaver State Fling. I think I mentioned this. I think it was 2015. James Proctor taking 17th. Oh, 2017. Yep. He took 15th.
2017.
Yeah, he took 15th place at Worlds.
Yep.
And then finally, this one's notable for the wrong reason, if you will.
Yeah.
Thank you to Statmando. What I've just been giving you can find over on Twitter as well at Statmando. Garrett Gerthy has only finished worse than 55th place once in the last 15 years. 15 years. And
that's wild.
So where did he place worse than that once in the last 15 years? Was 3 years ago at the MVP Open.
Our home course.
Yeah. 60th place. But the point is, this is one of his worst ever. Mm-hmm. So not good coming back as a returning champ. But again, they took the golf course away. So
exactly.
Nick, does anything else stand out to you about the performance this weekend, or are we just going to wait to talk about it when we get to the course?
No, I think that's definitely the best things, kind of notables for the FPO division really quick was Katrina Allen in second place, obviously. Alexis Mangiuhano getting tied for third place, which also punched her ticket to the Throw Pink event at the end of the year, which is pretty amazing for her. Kona Panis and Juliana Korver tied for third, and then Owen Scoggins was actually tied for 11th place. She was first in gained putting. This is talking about Owen. First in gained putting, but was on the lower side of gained tee to green. So we always know that Owen is an incredibly good putter, but off the tee pad at this event especially, it didn't show as much. So, yeah, I would say that's it for the Santa Cruz Masters Cup recap. We'll talk more about it after the interview, obviously.
For sure. Everybody, we have lined up a guest that if I'm being honest, wasn't going to be a guest originally that we would have thought about having lined up. We've been trying to focus on performances. And, well, James Proctor, who is this guy, right? Final round. Am I wrong in saying it was the hot round, right? Round 3? It was the hot round, I think.
I want to say
I want to say yes. Or tied for it. And so anyways.
It was tied for.
Made a very big push, taking second place. We talked about
it was the hot round.
Yeah, we talked about his stats. He played very well, tee to green, amongst other things. Let's go ahead and bring him in and find out a little bit about him. How is it going, James? And where are you calling us from?
Hey guys, thanks for having me on the show. It's going good. I'm calling you from up in Seattle, Washington.
Okay. Is this where you're living? Is this hometown for you?
Yeah, I was born and raised 2 hours north of where De La is. And then in January of this year, I moved up to Seattle to live with my girlfriend who's going up here for grad school.
Nice. And are you, we'll obviously get into this in the interview, but do you work another job or are you focused solely on disc golf at the moment?
I do. I teach special education. So
wow,
nice, very cool.
Very
cool.
You probably
already learning new things. I love it.
Yeah, you probably get the wow often when someone says that. What does it take? What does it take? And I guess, how do I say this? Because I want you to brag on yourself, but that's hard to do. What does it take to be a special education teacher?
I think you just have to want to be there for the kids. There's a lot of kind of politics that comes with education, and obviously they can, all kids can be frustrating at times. So I went to school to teach high school math. And then during my undergrad, I found special education and students with disabilities. And the work meant so much more to me, making connections with those kids. And so I was really drawn to that side and that specific group of students. And it's part of the reason why I'm not on tour full time is because I just love doing what I do so much. So
that's awesome. Incredible. Because you're obviously an incredibly gifted disc golfer as well as probably a very incredibly gifted teacher. And so it's really cool where you're able to dedicate so much into both of the things that you love. So I guess kind of starting off with the interview aspect of everything, how did you get into disc golf?
So growing up in California, there was actually a course right by my house when I was a little kid, when I was maybe 6 or 7. My dad took me over there. We had no idea what it was, just seeing people play it driving by. And, we went over there with a big old beach Frisbee and someone showed us the disc golf disc. This was back in 2002, 2003. So the sport was still pretty new. but yeah, we had fun with it. We started playing the weekly every week, and as I got older and grew a little bit more and could play bigger courses, we started, doing more weeklies. And in 2007, I played my first tournament. And just, I was pretty busy in high school, so I didn't get to play too much. I only played 5, 6, 7 tournaments a year. And then when I went to college in Reno, that's when the sport really took off for me, because I had more free time, and being that close to Tahoe, all those courses around Tahoe, it's how I spent most of my free time in college.
Wow. So, okay, spent most of your free time up till this point, maybe your friends in college all the way up to this point. How would one of those people that you played with so often describe your disc golf game? What would they say is like your strength?
I've been playing for so long, and before I was always backhand dominant. And a forehand was definitely a weakness in my game. And so I spent a lot of time focusing on that. But as far as like a pure strength go, I think, just being a smart disc golfer, I want to say that sounds kind of boring, but I kind of know how to, just how to attack courses and how to get under par. I mean, I don't throw 700 feet and I don't bang every 80-foot putt, but just, consistency, doing all the small things. And I like to pride myself on my putting. It was actually kind of a weakness for me at De La. Yeah, I'm not like crazy super flashy. I just try to do all the small things well.
Mm-hmm. So over the course of the 72 holes that you played, you only had 2 bogeys the whole time. So obviously you're playing pretty smart golf. Your tee to green was incredible. And then you were able to capitalize on an eagle in the final round. What is it like at a tournament like this where you're playing 3 rounds of 24 holes? Is there more of an exhaustion factor into it? Like, how do you keep up with that playing a longer course? And obviously wait time at these kind of tournaments is longer as well.
Yeah, I grew up playing De La, so I'm very comfortable on that course. I know I hadn't been there since 2017, but I know exactly what I want to do on each hole and where I want to, avoid. And it's funny, the 2 bogeys I took were both off of birdie putts. I ran a birdie putt on the original hole 2, and then I had a birdie putt hit and roll away to a 40-footer, missed that one. So that was my main focus was play aggressive but safe off the tee and just try to rack up birdies and avoid the bogeys. Mm-hmm. But 3 rounds, 1 round a day, it's not too taxing. There's some hills and stuff at De La, but it's just it's just part of the tournament experience. The weights are tough, but it just comes with the professional tournaments. I mean, you have backups everywhere you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the course not during your interview unless you have something you want to share. Generally, I guess I heard that there were some changes to some of the holes out there from how they normally play. Did you feel like, and had you played them before, did you feel like they were good changes, or were you kind of disappointed?
They definitely added a different vibe. I hadn't played them before. I flew down Thursday night and just played Friday morning. So I did, as far as scoring separation, the change on original 11 did add that kind of eagle piece, even though it's kind of a par 3.5. I mean, it's just, a really tricky shot and you got to bang an uphill putt. But I do like the original position on that better. I think it's a better hole, that dead straight spot. I did like the change on I-5. I felt like you had to execute 2 shots instead of 1 shot and a jump putt. I thought that was a good change. And then the hole after I-5, I like the basket over there, but I think it was a little too short. I think the par 3 position is fine. It didn't provide a lot of scoring separation, but I don't think this new pin did either. I like the idea of a par 4 and a dog leg out to the left. Maybe if they made the Mando so you can't go over the top, force people through the middle, that might change a little bit. But yeah, obviously you're not going to have scoring separation on every hole. And De La's, they basically took, those really hard to get par 3s where you really felt good about a 2 and you were fine with a 3, and then they kind of made them mandatory birdie holes. So it felt like it was playing a couple strokes easier than previous tournaments. And it's fun having the par 4s. I actually did see there was a couple eagles on the Old Hole 11, I was able to pick up one in the last round, and then Dustin Keegan in the second round, the one after I-5, executing it perfectly. So it does add some excitement. I see what they're trying to do. And, you know, De La is still De La. It's going to play the same no matter what. So I think the changes were fine.
Yeah, it definitely seems kind of as an outsider looking in at like UDisc live scoring and everything like that. It did seem like kind of like birdie to bogey percentage wise, it did seem like it was playing a little bit easier this year, but that's also coming with the fact that players are getting better. Players are learning the courses year in and year out, going back to this event. That's obviously going to be something that helps them out. But going to the last round, you made an incredible push to take that, you know, potential playoff for first place or to even get for first place outright. What was the pressure like going into that last round? And then how'd you feel, let's say 12 holes into it, halfway through the round?
Yeah, you know, going into the last round, I was in a big tie for third, and my main goal was to try to take third by myself. But I really wasn't competing against anyone else. I just, you know, I wanted to go out there and put a good round together. I wasn't very happy with my first round. And then second round, I believe I shot 10 or 11, and it felt good, but I knew there was a hot round out there. I knew I could get a couple more birdies and try to avoid the bogeys. So I was really just trying to go out there and take it one hole at a time, play the course, and, you know, just see where the scores stacked up at the end. And I really wasn't watching any of the scoring. I had no idea until we were sitting on a backup on I-5 and people were talking about the scores, and I saw I had 3 strokes on third place. And that made me happy. And so I still wasn't concerned about what Adam and Kevin were doing. I kind of just wanted to solidify that third place. So I told myself, you know, get the par fours, finish strong, and just see where they lined up. And then with 4 holes to go, I had a death putt, and I was totally fine laying it up. And then I thought, you know what, I better check the scores. So I turned around. I said, do I need to make this? And Sean Mercy, who was keeping our UDisc, said, yeah, you need to run it. And I looked at the score, and I believe I was 30 and Adam was 31, but he still had a couple easy birdies. So, you know, I was like, okay, you're here now. You might as well just see what you can do. So I ran it, didn't make the putt, but I stayed there, tapped in for par, and then just told myself, you know, it doesn't matter what anyone else does. Just get all the birdies you can and go from there. So,
wow.
It was fun though. I'll tell you what, that was probably one of the more fun rounds I've played, just because every stroke mattered and it was exciting. And
wow.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, so you're telling me that missed putt, that outside circle putt there could have tied you up.
Yeah. You know, I mean, he did have, I believe he was 2 holes back. So who knows where that would have stacked up. But I mean, every stroke just puts more pressure on him. So, you know, I watched his round on Joe Mez earlier this morning, and we kind of talked a little bit after the round, and, you know, he totally clutched up and made some sweet putts down the stretch. But yeah, you know, who knows if I get to 33 and he's got to go birdie to finish. It's just, you never know how it's going to play out. So.
Yeah. I'm looking here at some of your stats here, and I think this is round 3. You made a couple nice 38 footers, which is in a 49 footer, going hole 8, 38 footer, hole 10, 49, hole 12, 38. So there, and then hole 14, 49. That's a stretch of like 6 holes where you made like 4 circle 2 putts, significant ones.
Yeah, it was, that was the weak part of my game. The first 2 rounds, I was kind of making most of my inside the circle, but I wasn't connecting outside. So before round 3, I spent a couple extra minutes putting that 40 to 50 range just to kind of get comfortable. That way, if I did have to run some of those putts, I would feel more confident. It's hard at De La, you know, you can't, it's not flat ground and green grass where you have no worries when you're running a 45 footer. If you miss, there's a good chance you're going to take a bogey or have to hit some crazy comeback putt. So, yeah, I felt good. My game was feeling good. I did miss, like, I believe 2 inside the circle putts during that stretch too. So, I just, you know, I was, my only goal was to try to give myself birdie looks and then knock them down. So, yeah, it was, I was feeling good.
Yeah, you missed, not to pour salt on any wounds, but you brought it up. You missed 3 circle 2 putts going into the final 5 holes. So, but for what it's worth, you mentioned that was your struggle, and then you did have that nice burst there where you got 4. You only got 7 circle 2 putts the whole tournament. And so what you're saying is accurate. You're saying that was your struggle, but then you hit 4 solid ones there in the final round. That seems to be what gave you that edge on the hot round. Is that how you feel the putting was the difference?
Honestly, yeah, I think it helped keep it going. Driving was definitely the difference for me. I believe original hole 4 was the only time I was really scrambling to save par, and I was able to hit a nice outside the circle putt. But every other hole, I was either putting for birdie or I was just, easy pitch up for par. The tricky thing about daylight is if you're 40 or 50 feet, half the time you're laying up because you're not going to want to run the putt. And the other half, you might not have a look. You might be behind a bush or a tree in your way or whatever. So those circle 2 putts, I mean, it's not going to be the same for everyone, but I did not run probably more than half of my circle 2 putts. I was just happy to lay up and take a par.
I'm curious that, like, looking at the stats now, you see like Adam hit 10 for 30 of the circle 2. Like, how many of those were actually just, he laid up under the basket? Because like you're saying, you could be 50 feet out. We don't know that when you're looking at UDisc Live, but he might have absolutely no look at it. So you lay it up, and that does count against your circle 2 percentage, which, sucks, but it is what it is. And so,
yeah, I would say at least 10 of those he probably laid up.
Probably. Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Yeah. And that's a big difference. That's a big difference.
I bet more than half of those baskets, there's danger behind, or it's on a big slope. So, and the thing about daylight is if you're playing good, like Adam and I were, you're fine taking pars. You just get the birdies when they come and take pars when they don't, and you're going to shoot under par. You're going to shoot a hot round. So, down the stretch, he felt a little need to press, but the front 12 of that round, if he's 55 feet away, he's fine laying up for par, as was I. So it does do the numbers a little bit.
Yeah. And real quick, I think it was Steve Dodge texted me earlier this week, and we were talking about stats. I said, hey, who came up with circle 1, circle 2? I was like, was that you, Steve Dodge? He's like, I think that was UDisc, Matt, Josh, and Steve. I think collectively they came up with the need for that. But what's interesting is, and he mentioned this, and it came up tonight on this show with you, James, like, we have to track stats that are actually not putt attempts. Like, if someone's laying up from circle 2, was it an attempt? No. So like that'd be neat to see. That'd be a cool little stat to add in there. Go ahead.
I was thinking about that too earlier because I was curious, and I went on UDisc to see where I stacked up, and I saw that, and I was thinking, well, how many of those putts did I not even putt?
Right.
So. Yeah, it's funny. I've actually never thought of it like that until right now as we're having the conversation about it. Yeah, it makes you think, because it's like even circle 1 percentages. Like, I haven't been able to watch the full last round, but let's say Adam on hole 24, if he was able to just lay up a putt from 25 feet, it does count against his circle 1 percentage. But I guess at that point, when you're laying up for the win, it really doesn't matter. But
yeah.
So you have a second place. You have your highest finish ever at an Elite Series event. Are you playing more Elite Series events throughout the year? And I guess, what are your goals in disc golf as you're a full-time teacher, but then you're able to play at a high level?
Yeah, I'm playing the 2 Portland tournaments coming up, and then the World Championships, and then hopefully a couple of the pro tournaments this summer. I know I'm going to Ledgestone and Idlewild. So, for me, I know that I'm capable of playing at that level. I was not happy with my 15th place at OTB a couple weeks ago. So I think it was just, a confidence booster for me to show myself that I can do it, because I know I'm capable of it. And I've done it before, but it's just, I think it helped give me that confidence to do it again. And I don't have, I'm not totally sure what my disc golf goals are at the moment. Especially for like the next 2 weekends, because I won't get a chance to practice the course. I'll be playing Portland Open blind. So, I'm not going to go there and expect to get top 5 when I'm trying to learn the course the first round. I'm just going to try to play a little bit safer. And then, rounds 2, round 3, maybe try to get a little more aggressive and shoot hot. But Yeah, for now, I'm enjoying teaching. I'm enjoying playing when I can, and just trying to do my best to compete at that highest level. I'd love to get a win. I know I'm capable of it. I just, especially courses where I'm already comfortable. I feel great about Masters Cup. If Beaver State were happening this year, that's another course where I've played it a handful of
Yep.
times, so I feel comfortable there. So yeah, for me, it's just at this point, I'm just finding that balance between loving what I do for work and then also doing what I can to compete at the highest level in disc golf as well.
You said this when you came on the interview in the beginning here. You said you think probably some of your strength is, and I'm summarizing this, but your mental game. And everything I'm hearing you say is just so level-headed that I'm going, it just makes sense. Like that is your strength. It seems to me that's how you're coming off. Can I ask, who are you playing disc golf with on your regular disc golf rounds? I mean, you're getting out, you're not touring all the time. Are you playing leagues? Are you playing tournaments locally? And then are there any notable names that you get to compete with in your area?
Yeah, up in the Seattle area, shoot, even a C tier, I'm competing against Kyle Crabtree, Chandler Fry, Dion Arlen, Sexton's from the area. So when he's not out on tour, he's playing. There's a countless number of guys at any given local tournament up here to compete against. I don't get to play too often during the week. If I have a tournament coming up, I'll practice that Wednesday or Thursday. But for the most part, I just play the local tournaments on the weekends if it makes sense. If not, I'll play around somewhere and the big ones when I can. But yeah, and I've been playing for so long, it all pretty much feels second nature to me. So before a tournament, I'll go out and putt for a while, go to the field, but I don't feel like I have to play every day to stay sharp.
Do you, this question I think is going to come off really stupid, but I'm hoping it gives us some insight. I'm imagining you're not playing for the money, but does that play into which tournaments you choose to play locally?
Not really, I'm definitely not in it for the money. I'm in it for the experience and the competition. I love competing. Like for example, there was a local A tier in Seattle. The Fort Telecom Open was this weekend, and there's no guarantee that I shoot well at Masters Cup and spend money on flights down there and compete. When maybe I stay here and win an A tier, but for me, I'm always gonna choose the higher tier tournaments over the lower tier. So if there's a national tour or a pro tour that I can get to and am able to play, I will go play that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's not about the money for me. I enjoy playing disc golf and I enjoy competing and I want to compete at the highest level. So if that's going to be an option for me, then I will take that.
Yeah. And just, cool. I'll toss this over to Nick, but I thought it would be pretty obvious, like who actually plays for money. But at the same time, there are aspiring players who are like, oh, I'm going to pick this event. It's, I don't know. Everyone plays for different reasons. It sounds to me like in either you're hiding it very good, but it sounds to me like you're very passionate about the sport and that's why you're playing. So cool.
Yeah.
So throughout the years, you've had different sponsorships. Like I think, because I've known your name for a little while now. You've been with Prodigy, I think Latitude 64. And now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're with Innova at the moment.
Yes.
So talk to us about the sponsorships and let's say, leaving one for another. Like how does that all play into the life of a professional disc golfer?
Yeah, at first I grew up throwing Innova, and so I always wanted to be sponsored by Innova. And when I was in college and started winning some tournaments, I reached out to them, but they were a little hesitant. It was the beginning of the year. They already have a big team, and I'm a full-time student, so I don't get to play a lot and all that. And then Prodigy reached out. I believe it was Sarah Hokum at a tournament in California, and she got me in touch with Will, and I was stoked. It was just kind of awesome. I'd never been sponsored at that point, so I was all on board. And then the company was still super young, and most of the guys were on the East Coast, and I was on the West Coast, and so it didn't feel like I was a part of that team. They'd, oh, have you thrown this run? And I never, it just didn't feel, and they didn't have the complete lineup and all that. They were a young company. And then Dave Feldberg reached out, I believe 2 years later, about latitude, and they were combining with dynamic, and it was going to be a big old thing. And Ricky joined, and there was some cash involved in that one. And so I said, yeah, sure. I'd love to get paid to play disc golf. I had never done that before. And so I was with Latitude for a couple of years, and then the opportunity presented itself to switch to Innova. And just growing up throwing Innova, I've have all the the older discs, the KC rocks. It was always my end goal to be able to compete using those discs that I had loved since I was 7 or 8 years old. And so when that and at that point, it was kind of decided for me that I wasn't going to be playing full time. I was going to be teaching and then playing when I could. And so I just wanted to have fun, and I wanted to throw my favorite disc. And so that's why I made that switch. And now, I mean, everyone says it, but I don't plan on ever leaving Innova. I mean, the disc it's kind of just disc golf for me at this point. I learned with them. I trust them so much, and I love all the the company, and being in California, I can go down and visit the warehouse and all that. So I'm super happy, super confident in my bag, and I hope to stay on Innova for as long as I can.
Very cool.
It seems like you are invested very much in your teaching position, and obviously the world needs teachers. Is there anything that would change and say, hey, I love disc golf, I love teaching, but like right now, the disc golf opportunity is going to take precedence at some point? Is there anything that could happen to make that take place? Or are you just like set? No, like I'm pretty confident this is just how it's going to be. I split the two.
I've struggled with that for probably the past year, to be honest. And, it's not like a money thing. It's not a disc golf thing. It's more of just a life choice. I have my life up here. I have my girlfriend and dog, and I like having somewhere to come home to. I like having kind of that home base, I guess. And giving up that to either live out of a van for 8 months out of the year, or fly around and just be on the road all the time. And then it makes me nervous. What happens if I have an injury? What happens from November to February? How am I going to pay the bills? How am I going to pay rent? All that. So I guess it is a little bit of a money thing, but it's also just kind of the lifestyle thing at this point. I'm not going to say it's never going to happen. But where my life is right now, I think this is the best option for me. But yeah, it's something that I've thought a lot about. It's something that I've talked to my girlfriend about. And it's definitely a possibility. But at the moment, at least for the remainder of this year, I'm going to keep teaching and play whenever I can.
Very cool. Are you gonna start teaching disc golf? Do you do that already?
I've tried, I've popped into some PE classes at different schools, and I give a lot of lessons up here to locals. It's something that I would like to do, and I've thought about it. It's hard, it's kind of like I wouldn't be able to. I don't know if I'd be able to do that as a career, because schools' budgets are so tight already, and they're not going to shell out money for a disc golf lesson. So I definitely want to give back and grow the sport, and introduce it to schools. Maybe if things settle down for me a little bit, it's been kind of a busy year. Maybe that's something I can try to focus on next year. But
yeah, I guess generally I was saying, like, I should have worded it better. Do you teach lessons, as in like, do you do lessons for locals? You seem like you'd be very good at that.
Yeah. No, I definitely do. I mean, when I moved up here, I just posted on the local Facebook page, hey, I'm moving up, I'll have some free time, love to do some lessons. And I got like 20, 30 responses in the first couple days. Everyone reaching out, I'd love to do a lesson, blah, blah, blah. So I've been doing that a lot. Obviously when I'm playing tournaments on the weekends and working during the week, I'm not able to do it as much as I would like. But yeah, I've really enjoyed it. I've learned a lot giving lessons, and I think it's even helped my game a little bit, just kind of listening to my own advice. But yeah, no, I love giving lessons. I think it's super fun, and it's important to, teach people the right way, and to give back and reach out, and just kind of further become a member of the community.
Did you any other sports, or do you have an athletic background? I know you talked about disc golfing for so long, but I just mean in general, you're talking about throwing the right way. It's important to do. Like, where did you learn all of your technique and mechanics, if you will, for disc golf?
Yeah, I definitely had a big sports background. I was a baseball, basketball kid growing up, and super busy all throughout high school. And so, it was kind of funny. My game, when I wasn't playing sports, it would kind of get better and better and better. And then sports season would hit and I would drop back down, and then I'd get better and better and drop back down. And then when I was in college and didn't have anything else to focus on, that's when I was really able to elevate my game. But I'm trying to, like my form, I wasn't very happy with my form for a long time. I used to kind of like pull down from the pocket a little bit, and it just wasn't the correct way to throw, in my opinion. So I actually changed it like 2 years ago. Really hard to do when you've been doing something for so long. But, when I was learning back in 2001, 2002, I can only remember one video on YouTube, and it's Dion Arlen out at I
The
believe
Discraft one.
Yeah.
Yeah, great video.
Distance
Distance
video
with Dion.
and throwing up the toboggan or whatever. And that was like the only video back then. So
Yeah.
I didn't, and no one had camera phones, so no one was filming me throw. I had no idea what I looked like.
Yeah.
I remember seeing myself for the first time on video and thinking, that's what I look like. I had never seen it. So, yeah, I mean, it's a lot different now for all the new people learning. They can compare their form and all the slow-mo videos and all the different athletes. And, but yeah, I remember, it was kind of just self-taught and what felt right. And I thought it was good. And then later realizing that definitely I needed to make some tweaks. So, but I definitely have a big athletic background, and, playing sports my whole life. And I was a pitcher in high school. So I think a lot of the mental game kind of translates to that. And, the ability to like really focus down and not let anything distract you, and just different things like that.
Mm.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, real quick, because I'm watching the live chat as we go. People are interested in a few things. One of them being your disc collection behind you. Do you have any special discs that are hanging up or notables that would be like, wow, this is really one I would share with people if they were asking? Or what are those behind you? There's hundreds of, for our listeners. There's a wall, or there's a shelf full of hundreds of discs.
Yeah. There's a lot. It's easy to accumulate them. I don't have a lot of crazy stuff, to be honest. It's a lot of just stock stuff. Obviously those are all KC Rocks up there. I'm really trying to think. Like, I don't know.
So you're not a big time collector. You just have a lot of discs, and are most of those then for throwing? You don't really collect much.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I love discs. I love buying new discs that I think are sweet, but I'm a thrower. So, you give me the sweetest, like I just put a brand new 10-time rock with a sweet San Francisco Safari stamp over the top that, gorgeous disc, and right in the bag throwing. So,
Nice.
I am like a collector. I like a lot of the older, nice plastic, but I also throw it, and it just goes right because it flies good and it lasts forever. So, that's all Innova and a couple Discmania, and a lot of them are sweet, but it's nothing I would never throw. It's all stuff that's going to end up in the bag eventually.
Yep. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I mean, if there's anything that you want to talk about more on it, I'm out of questions, I guess.
Nick's out of questions, which is fine. I'm just generally interested. This is one of my favorite questions to ask when we have a guest on who I know very little about. Is what other things do you enjoy doing? Is it cooking, instruments? Like, there's got to be other things. I know you teach a lot, you travel and play disc golf, but there's got to be that little off time. You're on vacation and you're not disc golfing because you're with your girlfriend. Does your girlfriend disc golf?
She doesn't. She has.
There you go.
Yeah, she's thrown a couple times. She likes watching. We're both outdoorsy, so she likes the courses, walking around. But I I have a lot of hobbies. I got really into rock climbing during COVID. Spent a lot of time doing that. I love running. I go on a couple runs a week. I love playing tennis. All pretty much, any type of sport I'm in. So I definitely keep very busy, and I'm always doing something.
Now, rock climbing, are you at like an indoor gym bouldering and stuff like that, or literally outside on a mountain and you're trying to
Yeah,
climb up a rock?
I definitely started in the gym. I've been outdoors twice. Back in California, my buddy had all the gear. He was more experienced than I was. And since I've moved up here, I don't have all the outdoor gear yet. So I've only been in the gym, but it's something I would like to keep working at and get better at, and eventually be able to climb outside all the time.
It's a killer workout.
Oh, it's awesome. I love it.
It's insane.
I started rock climbing when I was 16 because one of my friends was really getting into it, and then one thing leads to another. That's what he does for a living now, and he's won Canadian nationals. And you may know his name if you're into rock climbing. Look up Josh Larson. He's got TV.
It sounds familiar, to be honest.
Yeah. So look him up. He's an incredible climber. But like that's who I started with. And Nick says it's a workout. Man.
Yeah.
If I tried to go back now,
him and his brother. Yeah.
If I tried to go back climbing now, I would last maybe 10 minutes. But that's because I'm not like in it. But back in the day, it was like 3 hours. So like, what did you notice? Did you notice the difference outdoor climbing when you did it? It's way more rough on your hands. Like.
Oh, it's a different sport in general. I mean, in the gym, you got a bright pink little thing coming out of the wall.
Yep.
And I'm out on the rock and I have no idea where to put my foot. Is this going to fall? Like, oh man, totally different. Totally different. But I mean, it was thrilling. I really, really enjoyed it. I definitely wasn't as fearless outside. When you're in the gym and you fall, you're hanging there, or you can stop yourself a little bit. And when I was outside, I'm like, do I really want to scrape down 8 feet on this wall right now? Really? So,
that's funny.
Yeah. I actually, my hometown is where Kevin Jorgensen is from, and he's actually building like this. It's supposed to be this crazy badass new rock gym. So, right after I move, he builds the gym. But whenever I go back, I'm definitely going to check it out because
I think our buddy Josh he's the USA Olympic coach now, and I think he's out of Ogden, Utah, which is where we're going for Worlds, or Salt Lake. I think that's where the USA training camp is. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he lives out there, so I'm assuming that's where they do all the training. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, there's a little town that's like 2 hours east of here called Leavenworth, Washington. And I know it's like a big rock climbing spot, and everybody who's, into the sport and really good, they always like to go over there.
I like doing it in the off season because I mean, obviously it tears apart your hands with your fingertips, and then your forearms just get destroyed. So if I did it like right now, I wouldn't be able to play a tournament for 2 months.
Oh yeah, no, I've like gone rock climbing and then tried to play disc golf, and it's like shooting a basketball after doing an arm work. I mean,
it's ridiculous. Yeah, you can't do it.
I was telling my kids, we just got them one of those large trampolines for the backyard, and I'm like, go jump on that trampoline for like half an hour, then get off and try jumping on the ground. It's like it's just like feels horrible. So yeah. But okay, and one other hobby you mentioned was running.
Yes.
Is that purely recreational, or do you enjoy the competitive side of running?
Oh man, I cannot compete in running. I've done a half marathon, and I'll tell you that is the most humbling sport because, I mean, I'm young and I'm fit and I'm thinking I'm fast, and I'm getting smoked by 60-year-old ladies that have legs that are like 2 feet tall, just whizzing by me. I mean, I love it for the personal benefit and like the personal battles for myself, and I'm trying to beat my own times and just feeling accomplished after a run. It's great, but competing in a race or something like that, no way.
Do you think that training for your own self helped you this past weekend, hiking up and down those hills, playing a lengthy amount of holes compared to usual?
Yeah, it probably did. I think running just for not even for disc golf, just for my mental state as a person. I think it's really good for me. And I think, obviously you're alone for 45 minutes to an hour, or however long you run, and you're kind of alone with your own thoughts. And so, I think I definitely translate that to the course, and I'm able to, stay positive in my own head and stay confident and, not let the pressure get to you or whatever. But I just feel like for me, it's good for my mental state going on long runs like that.
Cool. That's good to know.
Yeah, my brother's probably listening. I would hope. My brother says he listens to the show. He was on as a guest host last week.
Nice.
He's training for 100-miler coming up here in like a month or two. And the reason I bring him up, because you talked about good for your mental state. And that is the one thing that he has said like many times. Like he needs to run for his mental health. Like he needs to.
Yeah.
Like just as a person, it's very helpful. So that's cool to hear you saying the same. Maybe, Nick, that's what's missing in our games. We need to go take up running.
I guess so. Maybe I got to start going out for runs. It's funny. So in 2019 for the MVP Open, I had actually started going to a buddy of mine was a personal trainer. So I started doing personal training, a little bit of weightlifting and everything like that. And then like a week before the tournament is when Paul and Hannah came into town, and Paul was really into running. So we would go out for a run before our practice rounds. And obviously my legs were tired, whatever. I probably should stretch a little bit more. I'm not used to it, but it's funny because that was the year that I had my best finish at a pro tour.
There you go.
Maybe I got to get back into running, and I'll start playing better again.
Yeah. I mean, I totally my legs felt fresh all weekend. I didn't feel fatigued walking up and down the hills. Mentally I'm able to stay focused for a longer period of time. I mean, 24 holes, it's a long time to stay focused on every tee shot, every approach, every putt. That's honestly, I didn't think about it, but that's probably something that led me to, only having 2 bogeys and really not having any terrible shots off the tee that led to bogeys. It was just, some putting woes. So
no, that's a really good point. Cause obviously the one thing that's very hard to teach in disc golf is a mental game. Like people have asked me that before. They're like, what do you do during backups? And I'm like, that's all up to you. Like, I can't tell you what to do during a backup because everyone thinks about what's going on differently. Yeah. And so like for me, I like to just kind of like stretch out a little bit and kind of put my mind elsewhere and then try to get back into it when, we're live on the card again. Yeah. But for you, it might be completely different. So I think even just being able to say like, hey, running has helped me out my mental game. Like that's cool in and of itself, because then I can think, okay, maybe I'll start running a little bit more and see if that actually helps me as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think, I think it's important to be able to not think about disc golf while you're playing, but then also when you step up to the tee, have that laser focus and be able to execute that shot.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, having a pitching background, it's basically the same thing. You're out clowning around doing whatever, but then when it's time to pitch, ready to go. So, I mean, mental game is huge. I mean, that's obviously no secret. It's, what is that Yogi Berra quote? 90% of the game is half mental or something like that. I don't know, but that was like always one of my favorite quotes.
Yeah. So I think, who was it? Ken Climo and Dave Feldberg were talking years and years ago, and Dave talked about it on our show too, where he said, at the end of a round, he's mentally exhausted. He's just toast. And Ken Climo said, he's like, it's because you're thinking about disc golf, the whole time you're playing. He's like, I'm thinking about disc golf that like, minute before his shot, and then during his shot, that 30 seconds. And then after that, when he throws it, he can't change what just happened. Yeah. So you got to think about something else. You got to put that behind you, and then you got to go and kind of like refocus when you get up to the next shot. So yeah, the less you think about disc golf, maybe when you play, the better you play. It's wild.
Well, obviously you performed pretty well, really well. What's your biggest tip for mental game? How are you tackling the mental game? It's something that I've stumbled upon actually in a beneficial way that probably I've played 14 years, probably up till about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and something clicked for me. But no one's here to hear my take on it. Like, what's your take for mental game? How are you attacking these holes and how are you handling it?
I think first you need the confidence that you can do it. When one big advantage for me at Dayla is I've played those holes 100 times and I know, exactly what I want my shot to look like, what disc I want to throw. So when I'm stepping up to the tee pad, I know I'm going to execute this shot. And then for me this weekend, I just really tried to focus on one shot at a time. Because if you start thinking about, 3 holes from now, 4 holes from now, or that bogey you took 3 holes ago, I mean, it's just too long and too grueling of a round. So, throw your tee shot, like you said, throw your tee shot, think about something else. Then you get to your approach or your putt, and then you're focusing on just this putt. But for me, I think at first it just comes the confidence knowing you can execute what shot you're about to throw, and then just one hole at a time. You got to have the memory of a goldfish. 10 seconds, and then it's gone, and then you're ready for your next throw.
But how come? And now I'm just doing this for the banter back and forth. How come though? Some people aren't able to walk away from a bogey or a double bogey, and they aren't able to have that short mental lifespan, and you are. Like, how are you able to walk away from that bad moment? What have you told yourself that helps you do that?
De La is a unique course, and I'm just speaking because of Masters Cup. And I know that, one, there's 24 holes, so there's plenty of time to come back. And two, they're hard holes. No one, most people aren't shooting 10 down in the last 12 holes. So I just told myself, I had a bogey early, and I believe it was my second round. And I said, I got 21 more holes, shoot good, pars and birdies, and you'll be able to climb back up. So, you can never win a tournament after the first round or after the second round, but I believe you can lose a tournament after
100%
tournament. So, and it's cost me, a handful of times where I was winning and then I blew up, and then I gave up, and then I lost by one. And it's like, well, geez, if you would have snapped out of it after one hole instead of 4 holes, you still would have won. So, you never know, and you really shouldn't care about what other people are doing. It's just you and the course. And, the course takes one from you with a spit out or bad luck, then you just get it on the next hole. It usually evens itself out like that. You're not going to have 18 holes of bad luck in a round. So I think, it's important to just, you have one bad hole. Okay, I'm going to get the next one. And if it doesn't happen, okay, I get the one after that. But yeah, it's not easy to do. It really isn't, because especially in today's game, you start off 5 pars in a row, you got 45 people beating you. Everyone's so good now, you get one bogey, you feel like you're losing 2 strokes to the field. So it's like that much more pressure to not have a bad hole. But you just gotta, you can't play against the field. You got to play against the course.
Now, kind of talking about that scoring separation, almost birdie or die mentality. You were saying you weren't super happy with your finish at OTB Open, but the style of disc golf courses that was played on a regular golf course, like, what kind of style of courses do you like to play? Do you like that Milo, that Santa Cruz, or do you like that OTB Open, Goat Hill kind of, disc golf courses?
I definitely prefer Santa Cruz, Milo, anything where you have to shape shots, you're using all your discs in your bag. Every shot is required. I love throwing mids and fairways. I believe I only had like 2 destroyers in my bag at De La, and I had 5 rocks and 7 mids or whatever. But as far as OTB, I thought that was a great course. Leonard's a buddy of mine, and I knew he would do a good job, and I was really impressed with how well he designed that course. I've never played Goat Hill, and no knock on the course, but throwing 700 feet every hole isn't really appetizing to me. I mean, I know it's a style of golf, and you still got to be accurate. You can't just, they got OB paths and you got your spots to land. So it's still, you have to be accurate, but, just my personal preference and growing up in NorCal, throw everything in my way and I'll figure out a way to get around it. That's my favorite style of golf.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally get it. Yeah.
So it wouldn't be the Nick and Matt show if we didn't bring up Maple Hill. Have you ever gotten out here? This is where I record from.
I love that course. I played it, 2015, 16, somewhere in there. And I did decent. I think I got top 20. Love that course. Any course where you play in the woods for 6 holes, then you're in the open for 6 holes, then you're back in the woods, or any just that variety that a course can provide. Love it. Maple Hill is a special place, really special.
It is.
And it's one of those courses where you got to have every shot. And you got certain holes where you got to pucker up and hit a line, or you're taking a bogey, and certain holes where you can relax and just throw far. But that course has everything. It's got elevation, it's got water, left, right, straight. Just everything. I love it.
Yeah,
I think
it's definitely very challenging. I was fortunate enough, I went back to Massachusetts last weekend, and I got to play around on golds with a couple buddies, and I shot 2 over par, and
Oh,
I
wow.
hadn't played golds in a long time, and I kind of like I got the birdies on 4 and 5, but then I took the bogey on 6 and 7, which is just
Yeah.
so easy to do.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well now I'm back to even, and then front cage miss putt on 8 turn goes right into the water, so I take a 4 on that. I'm like, okay, that's just typical. That's maple golds for you, but it's fun
Yeah.
because you do have those water shots, you do have the elevation, and it's a great course, and it makes you think differently. Like when I went out to Vegas this year, I've never played that style of disc golf before, but it was super fun. Of like, okay, on these par 4s, I have to land a shot here, and then I have to throw another good shot up to here. And that course wasn't super long. They were long in and of itself, but compared to like the Goat Hill, what it looked like, and then even for me, OTB Open, I don't have a roller game. In Massachusetts, we just never had to learn how to do that. So a course like that, I'd probably struggle a ton on. But Vegas was actually really fun to go out and experience that open style of disc golf.
Yeah. I actually haven't played Vegas. It looks like fun. I heard they're changing it next year to like 1 big course or something instead of 3.
Really?
I don't know.
Exclusive news.
Yep. Spoiler.
Yeah, don't quote me on that. I could have been hearing wrong, or I don't know. I don't know what my source was.
I wouldn't be
I would
surprised
love
though.
it if they did that. I would think that'd be very cool.
I wouldn't be surprised based off of, I don't want to say the reviews, but the player feedback was that, it would be nice to narrow it down to a course or 2.
Even yeah. So my thing is, for the pros, take out the infinite course and then just play the Innova Factory Store course, which was my favorite actually, and then the Innova course. I thought those were 2 really, really fun courses that made you, play 2 different styles of disc golf. You had to throw the forehands, the backhands, and everything like that. And so for me, that was fun. But the infinite course was kind of a little, it was super windy the first round at Vegas this year, but it was very it's very, very birdie or die for the pros.
Yeah.
Almost to where it's like, it's a little too short, I would say.
Yeah, I hear you.
All right, man. I'm going to tell you right now, James, the chat is like, well, new fan here, and James, you got other people saying, bring James on more often. We can create a segment for him. So the listeners, I'm sure.
Teach us this mental game.
Yeah. The listeners driving around in their cars or at their work, if they're listening to us there, and those who are watching live right now and listening, they're enjoying it. We thank you very much for coming on. Total respect for what you're doing and also enjoying the disc golf life as well. That is, I don't know. Again, no one's here to hear my story, but I have 4 boys and a wife, and I have to work, obviously. And I just said, I'll just be an amateur for life. Like, it just is what it is. I've just come to settle with that. But I want to say thank you so much for coming on the show. Is there anything that we missed or that you would like to give shout outs for before we let you go?
Not really. Just Nick and Matt. Thank you guys. It was a pleasure talking to you. I was super excited to be here, and hopefully the rest of the year goes well, and we'll be doing this again soon.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's right. All right, man. Safe travels when you're traveling to these tournaments in the near future here, and have a great evening.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Take it easy, James.
Bye.
All right, everybody. That was James Proctor, sponsored by Innova, plays big events, but is not on the tour, if you will. Yeah. Nick, would you call him a touring player?
I think for his skill level, you could say when he does go out to a tour event, he's usually going to compete pretty well, but he's not. I mean, he said it himself. He's not a touring pro to where he's not living the van life right now. He's not playing 30 plus events a year out on the road. So he's not technically a touring pro, but skill wise, he definitely has everything. We just saw it this last weekend. He has everything that he needs to do to go out. And actually, if he was to go out and be a touring pro, he can do it.
Right. So that was, man, I try to do live reactions, and sometimes, Nick, I actually thought about, I didn't even talk to you about this. I'm like, I need to start up a show review from Matt's perspective, and you can do one from Nick's perspective. But like, I was thinking I'm going to go out on the course and I'm going to play 6 holes mic'd up, and I'm going to talk about like what I did like, what I didn't like, the things I messed up on, like just from my perspective, the show. I don't know if it'll happen. Maybe a Patreon or something. Yeah. Maybe. We did have a super chat, by the way, for bring back Judge That Disc Golfer. I think we would be remiss not to address that. So here's the deal. It is more work to create those segments, number one.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, we're trying to find the right place to fit it into this newer show format. So it's possible we do go Patreon with that. And if you think Nick and I are not talking about this regularly, we are. We're trying to figure it out.
It's funny because it usually comes up every day after the show of like, hey, let's, how can we tweak the show a little bit more? Matt and I constantly throughout the week or, group chatting with everyone that's involved with the Foundation Podcast Network too of like, how can we make the show better? Do we feel like we need to tweak anything? Yada, yada, yada. And Judge That Disc Golfer is a subject that does come out a lot, whether we, do our regular show on Monday nights and then on Wednesday night we air Judge That Disc Golfer.
Right.
Something like that. Maybe like have more of that game show feel that, maybe we used to have. Maybe that's another night of us doing this. So we're trying to figure it out. And honestly, one great way that could help us out with it, leave some comments. Where would you guys want to see Judge That Disc Golfer? Do you want to see it
show?
Matt and I, let's say we've been aired right now for an hour and 20 minutes. We're going to talk about different courses. Are we outgrowing courses? So that may take 20 minutes. So then we'll be at an hour and 40. So let's say if we're doing a 2-hour show, does everyone want to stick around? Does everyone want to listen to a Judge That Disc Golfer segment? Or would you rather tune in on like a Friday night? Or if we just dropped a YouTube video, would you guys rather watch it like that? So
right,
let us
that's
know
the
because
point.
we're curious. We want to hear reviews of it in the sense of like, how can we make the show better?
Yeah, people liked having the pros participate in segments that were not specifically, how's your game? What discs do you throw? We get it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we'll bring it back. It's going to either be in the show one-off every 4 or 5 episodes, or we do it separately, standalone, as Nick said.
Yeah.
Or, and this is a good way to support the show, I think we might go to Patreon for extra content. So, Nick, speaking of...
I think... Well, I'll just say really quick, the one thing, a lot of people have come up and talked to me about the show, which is super awesome. I love it. Whenever I see people in the public and you talk about the show, it means a lot to me. One of the things that people really liked is last year we were able to have pros on for a long period of time. This year is a little different, only in the sense of last year they shut down the tour. So pros were, practicing throughout the day, and then we were able to have them on for an hour and a half, 2 hours. It's very hard to do that nowadays. I mean, look at half the times that we have interviews. It's people, they pulled over on the side of a highway and they were able to spend 20, 30, 40 minutes with us. So we're, like I said, we're doing everything we can to figure out exactly what's the perfect sweet spot. And we feel like we're getting close to that point.
Well, I will say this, and this is very interesting. We're taking notes right now live and our listeners post round. The chats are coming in saying, the game needs to be live. So, Nick, I don't think we're going to be posting it after a show. It's got to be a live show. They say that's
totally
the fun.
With that. I like that. Yeah,
they're saying that's the fun.
Yeah, I loved it. One of the times where, what was it? You had up to where they could text in.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And we could see all their poll results. Like that was, I love the engagement of that. Believe me, if that's the way that everyone wants it done, then that's the way we're going to bring it back. I have no issue with that.
All right, we're going to figure it out.
Matt, get working on it.
Yeah, get working on it. Okay, so speaking of segments and fun segments, this one was not like the most fan favorite, but it is a segment that we used to do. So here we go. In good favor, we are bringing back one of them, and it is internet disc golf questions. So, Nick, I've got a few internet disc golf questions for us to react to. I browsed the internets, and here's what I came up with. Question number 1 from a disc golfer, and this is a fairly long question, but work with me here. Fellow players. Oh, should I do it in the old accent I used to do, Nick?
No.
Fellow players.
Yeah.
Okay. My arm speed is basically at a 9 for max distance. I can get my Pro Thunderbird to 330 to 350 feet consistently. But I believe I struggle with nose angle. But I digress. My question is, there a benefit to bagging faster discs? Shot shaping in the woods, maybe. I don't see a reason to bag, say, a Zeus. I do have a Hades I use for headwinds, but whenever I get a little cheeky and try to rip it, whenever I... Let me just start over. That's so funny. Whenever I get a little cheeky and try to rip it on a calm day, it goes no further than my Thunderbird. So what say you? So he's saying his arm speed he's throwing 330 to 350. He thinks his angle's the problem. He's saying, like, what should I throw for disc? Because my Hades is going as far as, like, my Thunderbird.
Yeah, I mean, funny, like, I'll use a personal story of mine years ago. I think this was probably back like 2017 or 2018. I had a Saint Pro in my bag, and I threw it over hole 1 golds at maybe, it was like a perfect evening, no wind, just great weather. And I threw it over hole 1 golds, which was a smash for a speed 8 or 9, whatever the Saint Pros are. And then it's funny because I would throw a distance driver, back then maybe a Destroyer, now a Zeus, and sometimes it would end up in the same spot. And I'm like, why do I even throw distance drivers? So there's benefits to having distance drivers if you have the arm speed, no doubt. But I'll teach any new players getting into the sport or people who have been playing for a little bit of time, or they're noticing that their fairway drivers are going just as far as their distance drivers, that you got to develop the arm speed for the max distance discs. And if you don't have it, just stick to those speeds 7, 8, 9, 10s. I mean, there's so many incredible discs that arm speed is perfect. So there's no shame in throwing a Hades just as far as your Thunderbird, because the Thunderbird, in a sense, or like for me, it'd be a Hades and an Onyx, because the Onyx is a little bit more reliable in the sense of it's a smaller rim. I could probably control it a little bit better throughout the woods. So,
oh man, Nick,
I teach players, you start out, if you can throw a putter 150 feet straight, then jump up to a mid-range now, and then get that mid-range to go 200, 250 feet straight, and then jump up to your fairway drivers, and just keep making your way going up from there. And I'm not one to teach about distance because I don't have very much of it, but at the same time, I can shape shots through the woods decently well.
Yeah, and my response is more just to piggyback off of what you said. First of all, I love the Onyx. Like, the smaller rim, but I'm still able to get just about my max distance. Like, this is to the point of his question. I throw a mixed bag, but let's say I was to throw a Destroyer. And 50 feet's a big deal, but I might get 40, 50, 30, whatever feet more with a Destroyer. But, like, I'm more controlled with the Onyx. So, like,
yeah.
So to his point, is there a benefit to carrying a higher speed disc in your bag?
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, but
there is for,
you have to know when it
windy
makes sense.
situations or elevated situations. There definitely is. You should, no matter what, you should have one. Like for me, I carry around a really, really stable force, and it literally just goes about 250 feet and then just dive bombs left. And I use that for windy situations or something that I need to go left, right, left hard or right hard. So it's a max distance disc, but that disc doesn't go more than, like I said, 300 feet. And that's me really ripping on it because of how stable it is.
So this is funny, Nick. I didn't expect this, and I don't know if this happened previously, but when we get to internet disc golf questions, I'm gonna say if a super chat comes in with an internet disc golf question, I might just read it.
Yeah.
He says, other than the end of a groove, can you talk negatively about any mold? And I'm trying to think, what other molds I don't like.
People trash the groove, but how many people have actually gone out and thrown a groove? Because it flies like a beat destroyer.
Hold on.
At least the old ones.
He's looking for us to talk bad about another mold besides the end of a groove. And I'm trying to think really quickly, like discs that I've held in my hand that I'm like, horrible. What am I going to go with? That's hard.
I don't want to trash another company because that's not what I'm trying to do right now. But for me, like the Innova turn, the little lip that it has at the bottom of the rim is just really uncomfortable. I thought the turn flight wise, I saw so many people throw it, and this is when I threw a mixed bag, and I was like, dang, that disc seems awesome, and I feel like I throw that really well, and I could never get a comfortable feel with it because the way the lip kind of like comes out at the end, and I just thought it was an awful feeling disc. But
I know what mine is.
That's not to say it's a bad disc, but
no. And it's funny because Hunter, my son, just got the disc and he's crushing it further than anything he's ever thrown. So it's awesome.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
That just goes to say everybody's opinion is an opinion. I think the Monarch, if we go way back, the Monarch was Horrible. Now, again, do they fly fine? It just seemed like a horrible disc in my hand. All right.
Exactly.
Internet disc golf question number, I guess this would be 3 technically. So this guy says, I was having a discussion with my friend and we think differently. Is it illegal to jump putt and or step putt and you end in circle 1? So basically, are you allowed to jump and step from outside circle 1 and land inside?
Yeah. Yeah.
Short and sweet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so then
Short
what's
and
the
sweet.
rule?
That's the answer.
What do you think the rule question here is, though? Like, why are they feeling that way?
He's probably thinking because when you're in circle 1, you have to remain balanced. So maybe if he's thinking that if you're landing in circle 1, you're supposed to be remaining balanced as well. That's the only way that I could kind of see him having any sort of issue on it.
Yeah, it sounds like the idea is they're like, well, technically you're in circle 1, but then that would change up, like for people who can jump 5 feet and land in circle 1, or like, anyways. Yeah, no, you can. Well, I mean, land.
You have different types of, jump putters. Like Kevin Jones loves that 34-foot jump putt, and he jumps forward athletically and bullets the disc into the basket. When, Chris Dickerson will do a little step putt, a very smooth step up. But same thing, he's stepping into circle 1 a decent amount because of that. So, yeah, short and sweet, you are allowed to do that.
And speaking of jump putts from 34 feet, this is where I go back to, and I think I said this when my brother was on the show last week, Nick, you might have missed it. We went back to the putting topic a little bit, and I still feel let's move all circle, no, we're going to get off topic, all circle putts to circle 2, meaning like circle 2 is now your circle 1. It's just called putting circle. Okay. As far as putting rules go. And people are like, well, now you're going to lose the jump putts. No, you're not. They're going to jump putt from 68 feet out now, or 69 or 70 feet. But inside of circle 2, which we'd call the putting circle, they're going to stand still and demonstrate balance and hit a putt. I just think I wasn't on this train for a while about making putts harder. But I kind of am. I've been slowly over the past couple of weeks changing my mindset to say, if we want pars to be a little more realistic, I'm not sure exactly what I mean when I say that, because they can keep pushing holes back farther and farther and farther. But the reality is people are going to still keep getting to that basket. So what we have to do is make putting a little bit harder. And we're not going to change the size of the basket. We're not going to do that. Like that's, I don't want to say it's stupid, but it's stupid because it's never going to happen. There's too much invested into baskets. But you could change the rule on putting. And this goes back to, remember that episode with Brody? Someone's like, we could lotion our hands up.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that? That was getting carried away. But
I guess my take on that is I think that'd be pretty cool if you extended circle 1 to where inside of the putting circle, you have to remain balanced. I do like that a lot. I've slowly seen a lot of players move away from that step putt or jump putt, and they're able to putt. Like Adam Hammes just showed incredible putting this last weekend, and what seems like 60 feet and in, he doesn't jump putt, and he's an incredible putter still. Someone like Paul, the Rickies, they don't jump putt a lot. They do here and there. They do in certain situations. But then you have people like the James Conrads, you have the Kevin Jones, the Chris Dickersons, who do love that step putt, that jump putt. So let's say if you were to take it to where the putting circle is 45 feet, I think that would add a lot in and of itself right there. And then, what were you saying? You're saying the basket sizes. You said one more thing that kind of popped something up, and I can't think of it now.
I was just saying basket size isn't going to change. There's too much money invested to the courses, but it's all right.
I think
go ahead.
Our stats wise, this is what I was going to say. So if you move that putting circle back, whatever. So stats wise, I really want to see the stat of like, what's the putting distance throughout that round? Like, I don't want to see, they hit a 16-footer.
Yep.
Like, I want to know, was it 12 feet? I want to know, was it 19 feet? Like, I want to see those, because I want to see those added up, because I could look at it and say, look, Adam Hammes murdered it putting this week.
Well, we can do that.
How far his distance
we can do that.
You can do that, but it's not accurate. It's not super accurate, because it says on UDisc, he putted from 33 to 44 feet. Okay, that was a 37 or 38 foot putt. Like, it could have only been 34 feet, but now you just gave him 4 feet, or it could have been 40 feet, but you didn't take that many.
And I see your point. But if the same person is doing it throughout the event, you're going to be relatively close. If you're off by 4 feet over 18 holes, like it's not going to be a big deal. Here's
but that 4 feet adds up every time. Like say you hit 3 34-footers in a row, now you've lost 12 feet of distance on your putting because it says you did 38 or whatever.
Yes, I guess I'm saying as long as that same person is doing it for that round, then everybody's getting that additional 4 feet per putt. You know what I mean? They're averaging the way they say.
I get that. I would just like the accuracy more of, what were the putting distances?
How are they going to do that?
I mean, at that point, whoever's doing the live scoring, just think like, we all have a pretty good idea of saying, hey, am I inside the circle or outside?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we all have a pretty good sense of how far people are putting.
Hash marks.
Putting.
Hash marks. They're going to do circle 1, circle 2, and they're going to hash mark every foot. So they get 60 hash marks, and then they know which one they're standing on. I don't know how to answer that.
Those little feathers are painted different for each foot.
But I agree, Nick. I actually agree with this. I would rather see the footage of putts made because that's a way better visual. And to be fair, UDisc is asking for the stat, and this isn't UDisc's fault. They are asking for it, and it does pull up how far they've shot. I think it's a good average. We got off topic a little bit, but I will say this. Some people were talking about like, hey, let me see. Oh, where's the advantage for anybody to jump putt? Again, we are off topic, but here's what I would say. They said, prove me wrong that jump putts help anybody. And I want to say this. Look at Kevin Jones. Look at Chris Dickerson. If we were to actually have a stat that says what type of putt they did, which would also be a very cool stat, like this player attempted a jump putt, their percentage would be way higher. So it's helping Kevin Jones and Chris Dickerson at the very least.
For certain players, certain putting styles, and take Chris Dickerson and Kevin Jones. Okay, they love that little step putt right outside the circle, and they're very good with it. Like very, very good with it. Now take Simon Lizotte and Eagle McMahon. You rarely ever see them jump putt because they have such a spin putt, and they've controlled it so much that they can putt from 70 feet without doing that. Kevin Jones, he could putt from 70 feet without jump putting. But the way he putts, it's not going to be as accurate as what Eagle and Simon do. So he found a putting style that works for him. And because of that, from that 35-foot range, he loves that jump putt. And he's, like I said, he's very good with it. Eagle, same thing. He found a putting style that's a very big spin putt. He found a putting style that works for him. And from 60 feet, he doesn't even have to jump putt. And he's got the same kind of motion the whole time. So there's obviously there's benefits, but it's for certain players.
Yeah, I'm laughing because, again, just like the last time we had this conversation, people talking about lotioning your hands to make it harder. This guy, Daniel, one of our regular listeners, you have to putt with a paper plate inside the circle. Can jams. You ever play that for disc golf baskets? Yep. So they're oh, there you go. Wrap the chains in like a can jam like cylinder and have like a slot. You have to get it through.
You have to get it through that.
All right. So let's move on here. Internet disc golf questions. We got way off topic, but it was a good one. I think people will probably enjoyed that. If you were going to get an autograph, Nick, from a pro player, not Paul Macbeth, okay, not for you. You're going to get an autograph from a pro player to display, okay? But they did not have a signature disc or tour disc. What would you have that player sign? You want to display this, but they don't have a disc. What would you have them sign?
So I'm just choosing a disc for a famous player.
It doesn't have to be a disc. Maybe it could be something else. Like, I don't know.
Just something random.
It could be anything. What are you going to have them sign?
Probably like my hat.
There you go.
I've had people ask me to sign their hat. I actually thought that was pretty cool, like the under rim of it.
But are you going to display your hat, the one that you wear all the time? You like hang that up?
I mean, yeah. I mean, if it was like if it had that much sentimental value to me, absolutely. Yeah, I would hang up a hat for that. Like say somehow I met Tom Brady just walking by, and I had a foundation hat on, I would 100% have him sign it somehow, and I would never wear that hat again. I would be sitting in my room. So,
dude, that's what people say about Paul Macbeth, and you're hanging out with him, living in his house. So,
well, it was funny because Simon, my girlfriend Brittany, and I went out for a round 2 weeks ago at Maple Hill, and someone had just bought a brand new like MVP disc, whatever. He saw Simon, asked if he could sign it. He's like, oh, well, now I can't even throw this disc anymore. Like, I got to go hang it up. So he went, put it in his car. It's a brand new disc. So I thought it was kind of funny. But I mean, I would do the same thing. Like, I'll say this: say if I had anything and I saw Billy Joel is my favorite musician, probably pretty much of all time. If I saw Billy Joel and had him sign something, whatever he signed, I would never use again for any casual stuff like that. That would be displayed in a very nice glass box.
Be careful what you have him sign then.
Yeah. It'd probably be a hat, more than likely.
That's cool. All right. Question. I don't even know what we're on now, but here it is. What's the best way to break in a disc? For instance, just using it a lot, or are there other ways? Let's get creative. And I'll just take the lead on this one. I often, and it's probably horrible, but I'll either, toss it like on a tree in front of me, like not tomahawk style, not full blast, but like just toss it, or I'll take it, lay it down flat, and let the rim scrape a little bit on like a rock or the pavement, like if it's brand new, and I'll just kind of run it in like a circular motion slowly to just get rid of that flashing.
Yep.
What do you have for ideas? Is that the same thing you do?
I mean, biggest thing that I do, if I feel like I need to beat in a disc, I'll play a practice round and I'll throw that disc on every hole. So say I want to beat up a Zeus, even if it's a 180-foot hole, I'll purposely throw like a flick pretty hard, almost aiming at a tree to try to beat it up. But for the most part, just casual practice round use of a disc, and I don't want to beat something up too quick because I want a disc to last for a while, and they all have their own specific reasons, but I like learning what the disc is doing consistently. I don't want to just one round throw it at 150 trees and then be like, okay, now it's doing this, and I didn't want it to do that. So
I at one point thought about a business, and this is the second week in a row or third week in a row I've talked about a business I'd like to start in disc golf, but this one was
that's funny.
Selling discs. So let's say it's an online pro shop, and when you purchased your disc, you could also select the amount of beat in that you want it. So like scale of 1 to 10, I want that disc beat in to the max.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Or I just want it barely beat in, please, like a 2. Like that would be very cool. Anyways, I don't know how you would do it, but someone said put the discs in like a pillowcase and then put it in your dryer without heat and just let it run.
Would that work? I don't know.
It's going to beat in the rim a little bit.
I'd be curious. I'd be more nervous about destroying Paul's washer machine. So I'm probably not going to try that one. Or his dryer, whatever.
Oh, man, that's so funny. Okay. All right, Nick, that wraps up internet disc golf questions for this week. So as we get close to the end here, we have a topic to wrap up with, which is day law. All right, so getting a little bit more, is it debatable that a course like day law should be on an Elite Series tour, whether it was a Disc Golf Pro Tour, or let's just say courses like day law? We can focus on day law, but courses like, do they belong in an Elite Series tour? Or like what are the questionables? What would be the questionables with a course like this?
Yeah, this is where we need that, what are the rules and regulations for, a national tour level course? I mean, we can look at this one, and I'm kind of just briefly going through the UDisc really quick. And within the top 20 players, one player had a triple bogey. The rest of them are just all regular bogeys. And then that goes down actually towards like the top 35. There's only one triple bogey, and then the rest are just regular bogeys. So is the course, in a sense, like too easy? From what I've heard about day law, is that it has a lot of fairways that play parallel with each other. So you could say danger-wise, there's a potential danger. That also causes for a lot of backups, because if you're playing right next to someone, if like someone's putting while you're teeing off, you're going to let the card go that's, technically the higher hole. You're going to try to let them finish out their hole first, but then you're causing a backup on your hole. So play-wise, it gets a little bit longer. But kind of like I was watching coverage today, I do enjoy watching this course because of the challenge of one bad tree kick, or, like I was watching James Conrad go for a couple big jump putts. And if he misses wide of the basket, he's going all the way down the hill. So there is a big risk reward factor to it. But another thing that I heard, parking at Santa Cruz, this course is not the best. And then I think that's part of the reason why it's a smaller field at this event. It's not the normal, let's say, 144 player national tour event or pro tour. This one only had the 76 players in the MPO division and the 37 players in the FPO division. So I think that's one big thing. Just the park itself might not be big enough for a national tour event. But I mean, year in and year out, and this tournament's been going on forever. People keep coming back to it. So obviously it's good enough.
All right. Well, let me ask this question then, because I think you hit on most of the actual disc golf play ability, if you will, bringing that point.
Yep.
And I think that's important. That's where I think it should start. But then you have the question of, okay, how well does it film? And I guess when I say film, I mean live specifically, but also film in general. Okay. So like a disc golf course,
Yeah.
I mean, like, see, here I go. Listen, I call it a disc golf course compared to what? A golf course. So when you're thinking about both, my general reaction is I personally love, and I'm going to say it this way, a disc golf course. And what I mean when I say that, and this is, I think we almost can quote Paul. Paul was saying, like, this is kind of the roots of disc golf, like the way this course plays. You got to control a mid or whatever. Like, you got to play disc golf. And again, I'm not going to break down what I fully mean by saying disc golf course, but that's what it was. I love that. And so I love seeing that on coverage. But the problem is no live. It's
that was a huge, and for people who don't know, the reason there wasn't live coverage because the cell service is so bad out there. And the Disc Golf Pro Tour actually, for months now, has been trying to figure out a way to film live at De La, the Masters Cup. Unfortunately, they just weren't able to make it happen. But yeah, that's a huge letdown in the sense of how, we are pushing for those more live viewers. We want everyone watching the live coverage on the Disc Golf Network, and to have a tournament that's at this caliber, not be able to have that live feature to it, does kind of suck. But
for instance, Disc Golf Pro Tour, I don't have any inside scoops here, but I think it's been pretty public. Like, they're not going to choose a course for their tour that they can't do live. Like, that is a major factor. It could have everything right, but they can't go live with it. The cell service thinks again, I don't have inside scoop. It seems like this is one of their bigger deciding factors. The feeling, and the feeling that I took away after having missed live this week, there was two. One's kind of funny, Nick. I was kind of like, oh, it was kind of nice. It was kind of nice not having disc golf, that I felt like it's the whole FOMO. Like, if there's live disc golf on, like, I want to watch it. And that's a great marketing plan. That's why Disc Golf Pro Tour is in large part doing so well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, is it a course like De La? That's where we're going back to. I think it's going to stick around, and I think it should. If it can't do live, imagine if there was a playoff game in whatever sport you like to watch besides disc golf that you couldn't watch live. It would be weird, but I'm not saying it would be bad. I'm saying that, like, it could become that experience. You only get to experience that live if you're in person. That could be special.
Yep.
It could be. I don't know what to say. I think De La should stick around for the history. Like, it'd be like saying one day if Maple Hill outgrew itself or couldn't do cell service, would we say get rid of Maple Hill?
I mean, no, in the sense of, like, I think you and I are way too biased in that conversation. But
no, if they got rid of, if the cell service went so bad, because they already lose cell service on, like, the back however many holes.
Yep.
So, like, if the cell service got so bad and, like, the whole course wasn't there, like, would the Pro Tour say sorry?
I think the Pro Tour would, and I think every event should be held at that standard of the Disc Golf Pro Tour. They created the Disc Golf Network, and they're doing everything they can to make the live coverage the best that they can. So why would they go and try to do an event where it's like, oh yeah, hey, this is our product, but you're paying $9 a month or $8 a month, whatever it is, and we're not going to let you have the perks that comes with paying that money per month. So they don't want to piss off the people, and they made an agreement with the PDGA and the National Tour this year and the majors to do the Disc Golf Network coverage at these events. But like you said, I don't think I could ever see the Masters Cup becoming an actual Pro Tour event. If it stays as anything, it'll stay as a National Tour event. But
yeah, it's not going to be a Pro
and then
Tour.
Also, yeah, it'll never be a Pro Tour in that sense. And then also spectator friendly wise, it's not spectator friendly from what it looks like.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
That's kind of a bummer, but you're going to see that a lot. And that's the biggest issue that we have in disc golf versus golf is that our courses, the wooded ones, are definitely not spectator friendly, when I would say 90% of golf courses out in the world are spectator friendly. But I don't ever want to switch to only golf courses for disc golf.
No, and that's kind of the point here too, is like, I legitimately was stoked to watch post-round coverage. I would have been stoked to watch live because I was getting sick of these golf courses. OTB Open, Dynamic Disc Open. What else do we see before that? Goat Hill. And then if you go back, obviously Texas States was in the woods, but what was that one right after it? After Texas States, it was a large.
Belton.
Yeah, Belton was a large part in the Open. It was like similar style.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I guess
I totally get what you're saying.
So here's a quick point.
Jonesboro is a good mixture of it's an openness where you got to hit your fairway and everything like that, but you are watching players throw bombs, and that's a good golf course design. Disc golf course.
So what did we see at a course like De La? And now we're kind of mixing in a little bit of the De La performance with the course style. But here goes back to my point about liking a disc golf course. And I'll say it that way till the day I die. It's how it was original. It's how disc golf originally started. Listen to these names in the top 10, and most of them will sound familiar, but Adam Hammes, James Proctor, Kevin Jones, Paul McBeth. And then you get Greg Barsby.
Yeah, I was super pumped to see his name back up there. He's actually won this tournament in the past. So
Drew Gibson, Kyle Klein, Matt Bell, Ricky Wysocki, Alex Russell. Now, the reason I read that whole list, you don't see Calvin Heimberg on there. You don't see and this is not a diss on Calvin, but the point is, when I think of players who can play in the woods, Adam Hammes definitely comes to mind. Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Greg Barsby I've played as a doubles partner with him once. In the woods is his thing. Paul McBeth, obviously. Kevin Jones. My point is, like, we see different players that can perform really well in the woods. Where was Eagle? Eagle's like, I'm not coming.
Yeah, he didn't come to this event at all.
Do you think that's a big part of it?
I think potentially, yeah. I mean, I don't know how he's done in years past at this event. I could kind of look that up really quick. But yeah, I definitely think players in his position are allowed to be picky and choosy with which tournaments they want to go to. And, what do you think favors your game a little bit more? I mean, why wouldn't, if I have a chance to win at, let's say 2 tournaments are going on at the same time, and, I can throw pretty far, let's say OTB Open's going on at the same time as Masters Cup. If I have a higher chance of winning the OTB Open, I'm going to go play that event. So, why make that sacrifice of going out there?
Here's why. Because you want to prove you're as good as Paul McBeth.
But at the same, for them winning those tournaments, is obviously proving something. But if that's not, I'm trying to think how to word this really quick, but.
Well, you're right. As far as his legacy,
I don't think Eagle's basing his game off of the De La Vega disc golf course, where he could probably go to that event. He would go to try to win that event, but he knows it's not his style of course, to where he's like, I'm going to take this off week and I'm going to practice courses that may remind me of what we are going to play at Worlds. And that's, that could potentially be the difference of that.
But I guess what I'm trying to say is wins matter. And so you're right. He can choose the events where he's like, man, this matters because I can win it. But in the end, if he has 5 world championships, but no one's going to knock him. They're going to be like, wow, he's a 5-time world champion. But if you put him up against 5-time Paul McBeth world champion and him, you probably would say, who would you choose to play every style course? And I would go with Paul.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I agree with that too.
And I'm saying he can change that.
But at the same time, like right now, when you're speaking of that, who am I picking at, let's say the Vegas courses versus the Santa Cruz courses? I might take Eagle at Las Vegas and I might take Paul at Santa Cruz, because right now with how they are playing this year, Paul obviously had a dominant performance at DDO, which was huge. But at the same time, you could see throughout the year, Eagle has performed better on those large, wide open courses when Paul has performed better on those wooded courses.
I'm talking about legacy, but I hear your point. This year, you're not wrong.
Well, legacy in disc golf right now, the main legacy that we care about is world champions.
I agree.
That's like how many times has Paul won Masters Cup? Do you know? Because we're talking about the event.
I think he won 4 or 5 times, and it was in the last 7 years. And I only know that because I researched it.
We only know that because we saw a stat Mando send us that where he won 12, 13, 14, 15, and 19, I think.
I'd have to go look it up again.
Yeah, I could look it up again. But
the point is, he has won that a good amount of times in the recent past. Now we're not going to get on this topic, but let's ear note it, or whatever you call that. Yeah, maybe it is ear note.
He won 12, 13, 14, 15, and 17. Sorry.
Let's take this idea, this question. I think it could be a good topic. Like, should winning Worlds be the determining factor? Is Worlds really that big of a deal? Like, if you have an off round at Worlds, is it really determine like how good or bad you are? Was Greg Barsby, if he never got a world championship, I think the way the sport is, yeah, he would have never had that status like as one of the best, but everyone would know Greg Barsby is one of the best of all time. Like, and I don't mean greatest of all time. I say one of the best.
Yeah.
But like a world championship, all of a sudden it's like, but see, I don't know. That's a whole nother topic.
I guess, well, right now, like I said, we are so hungry for just labeling people off of world champions. Like everyone says, Paul Macbeth, a 5-time world champion, Paul Macbeth, a 5-time world champion. But you also got to remember, he's also the 2-time United States disc golf champion. He's the 5-time European Open champion. He's a 1-time Australian Open champion. He's won the European Masters event. Those are all different majors that he's won, but we don't put that next to his name in the sense all they put on the disc is a 5-time world champion.
I know.
So that's almost how we
super valuable.
That's almost how we base not the ranking of a player, because obviously, Ricky, right now is ranked number 1 in the world in my mind. He's the best player in the world right now. And then I would put probably Eagle at number 2. But if neither of them get first or second at Worlds, if Paul comes out and he wins Worlds again this year, leading up to that event, Paul was not the number 1. But when he won that event, he's going to also win a couple events after that. And then he puts himself back into contention of, okay, he is the number 1 now. So Worlds is not the say all do all. But when we talk about the accolades of players, like we talk about Ken Climo, he's a 12-time world champion. And that's what we say. But he's also like a 5-time USDGC champion. But people may not know that as well as how many world titles he has. And I think he has more because of Masters as well. But
you can't take away a world championship or any win from anybody.
No.
But, and this is just my perspective, and Greg, if you happen to be listening to my show, I love you. The dude's been through my basement looking at discs. We climbed over like before I bought my house. Like that guy is awesome. And I think he would take personal offense to hearing me say this. But like, and it's not a fluke that he won. I think he performed well enough to win. But like nobody, and even this year or any year previous, did you think he was ever like the guy to win Worlds? It wasn't like he is the best. Even that year. What was it? 2019? Like 18. You're not like, Greg is the best player of that year or like whatever. Like you didn't feel that at all. You felt like, and again, I can't take it away from him. I'm super proud of him. I've talked to him about it. I have his world champion discs. Love the dude.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't feel like the world championship is like, this is your best player. It's you won the world championship.
It's like every tournament, who had the best weekend.
I know.
Like if you're gonna say the
Bring
number 1 player
rounds
in the world or the highest rated player in the world is gonna win every tournament, then Ricky would be winning everything right now.
Let's go back to more rounds.
What's that?
Like let's go back to more rounds, like 7 rounds, because then, and everyone loves the word fluke that I use. It's not, and I don't mean that again, that others were a fluke, but you take away that variable of like, oh, they had a bad round. Like you could have a bad round with 7 rounds and still be able to win the world championship. Anyways,
well, look at yeah.
We got off topic, but it was healthy. So we talked about quite a bit. I think the standout to me of tonight's show was James Proctor. Wow.
Yeah, that was an incredible interview. I didn't know he was a special needs, special education teacher. And I thought that was really, really cool in and of itself. And he just showed the passion, how he loves his job and everything like that. I thought that was very fun, very, very fun interview to have.
Yeah, I was kind of like, I wish he lived out in the New England area. It'd be cool to hang out.
I know, right?
So that's very cool. I'm very glad he was able to come on and that show, that interview worked out. In wrapping up that topic, someone said, Matt, and this is Daniel again, awesome chatter here in our live show. That happened in every sport. The best team doesn't always win the title. Sometimes a team gets hot. And then he goes, undefeated Pats. Remember that season? And I'm like, oh, it hurts. It hurts. The Patriots losing and the undefeated season. They were definitely the best team of the year. And you're right. They didn't get it. And for anybody who cares, Nick, I don't know where you were watching that, but I was watching it at a party.
I was at the Cormier's house in Auburn.
And what was the feeling once they lost? It was like everyone got quiet and you just felt
like
sick.
It's like when your favorite TV character dies in a show and you're not expecting it, and then someone catches a football off their helmet and somehow comes down with it, and then another Manning beats Brady. Sucks.
But you're hanging out with all of your friends when you find out like your dog died, and you're like, this is horrible.
Exactly. It sucks.
You just like quietly leave and like go cry to yourself. But yeah, so interesting topic and conversation. Appreciate everybody joining the show. I just want to say this because I was thinking about it this week. And if you listen to this far, you're probably some of our more real fans. If you last almost 2 hours. Mm-hmm. I don't know why I feel the need to say this, but it's like, I do not think I am the best podcast host ever, like at all. Like if I had to rate myself, this is like Judge That Disc Golfer. If I had to rate myself as a podcast host, legitimately, I'm rating myself as like maybe a 6, maybe, probably more in that 5 range. I have zero training in this, and I'm not going to rate Nick live, but Nick can rate himself.
I'm not a professional at it. I fumble my words a little too much, I think, right now, and then the way I kind of end my sentences when I listen back to the show, and I'm just like, oh, what am I doing? And then.
But so here's why I'm bringing this up. Sometimes, and I know everybody has their own life and their own life's issues and everything, and they watch our show, but they feel the need to like try to knock us down a little rung, and that's cool. But like, Nick and I are just enjoying doing Nick and Matt show. If you don't like the show, move along. Like, it's like, we don't think we're the best. The Nick and Matt show, we don't think we're the best. We try to bring the content that we think people would enjoy. And that's what we do. And honestly, Nick and I say it over and over. Nick, the in-person, specifically the in-person, love the shows. It beats out all the negative comments. It really does. We have some great fans. I just want to say that. We have some great fans, listeners, viewers who come back week after week. And we got to believe, Nick, we got to believe there's something entertaining here. But
I would hope so.
All right. I didn't say that for the attaboys or give me a better rating than I gave myself. I just wanted to put it out there. We do this because we're Nick and Matt. We'll bring our opinions, and sometimes it is what it is. Again, we thank each of you guys for joining the show. Nick, I think we've made it to that point in the show.
We've made it to that point. So everyone, please, on YouTube, the Foundation Podcast Network, go check it out. Like, comment, subscribe. That would really help us out. You can already hear me fumbling my words trying to end this. Go check us out on all the podcast platforms. We're there. Give us a review. And then, like I said earlier in the show, if you think of ways that you feel like you would like the show a little bit more, hit us up in the comments. We read them all the time. Matt and I talk about the show pretty much every single day and things we could do better. Tell someone you love them this week. We'll catch you in the next one.
That's right, everybody. And I'm going to say it. Last week was really tough. I didn't know how to close it out, but my brother did okay. Nick, you're awesome.
We got it now. Peace.
The Nick and Matt Show, a disc golf podcast designed for you, the disc golfer. Find the Nick and Matt Show on your favorite podcast platforms or stream us live exclusively on the Foundation Podcast's YouTube channel.